Hey, Terry, this is Mary. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you that my internet is shoddy and my everything's dying, but I'm going to try to stay on.
Right.
And that if I need to call back in from just a phone, I might do that later.
Yeah, we can put you on speakerphone, Mary Kay, if you need to call in.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Calling in or
To see.
He might just already zooming in or he'll be.
No, she'll be here.
Okay.
I know she's going to leave early and she had a route planned out. She has my cell phone number.
Okay.
She had a route for construction. Well, she's leaving around 4. She's hoping to leave around 4:30, 4:40.
We'll go ahead and start. When she gets here.
Not quite 6 show.
Yeah.
Yeah, if she's not here, is it okay if you just roll into the spotlight on education and just fit her in then? Because if she's not there on time, then she doesn't expect for you to do any favors.
Good. All right, 6 o'clock, we'll call the May 9th Board of Education for USD 417 to order, the meeting to order. We'll start out with doing introductions. I'm Terry Powell.
Tina Ray Scott, Kelsey Hartman, Jamie Johnson, Maria Blythe,
Micah Dornbos.
Andrew Steele.
Ricky Ziegler, Jolie Ziegler,
Jason Ziegler.
Marcus Fernandez.
Dana Reddick,
Kelly Gentry,
Kelly McDiffit, Jay Dornbos.
Krista Wilson,
Angela Harris,
Aaron Doty.
Bryce Johnson.
We have Valerie, Heather, and Kelsey, and Mary Kay online joining us. Consent agenda tonight. The approval of the agenda, approved minutes of previous meetings, financial report, pay bills, donations and gifts, approval of contract for 115 South Neosho Street, approval of the 2022-2023 staff, student, and coaches handbooks, the 2022-2023 student fee schedule, and the personnel items, employment of Samantha Acevedo, Council Grove Elementary School aide interventionist, April Winiger, Council Grove Elementary School aide interventionist, Pam Switzer, Prairie Heights Elementary School aide interventionist. Resignations, Ricky Ginsman, Council Grove Elementary School aide interventionist, John Keating, Council Grove Junior High girls head basketball coach, and a retirement of Michelle King, school bus driver. She's driven many, many miles over her career. So that's the consent agenda for tonight. Anything anybody'd like to see removed from that?
Mr. President, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion on that item? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Next item would be the patron forum. Anybody want to address the board this evening? At this time?
I would.
Okay,
I would like to talk about what's happening, what's being done to Jolie Ziegler. Why she's not being allowed to graduate this year with walk with these people. You know, there's not been given any reason why. We want to know why. She's got a 3.87 grade point average. She's the only person in this town to ever win 2 state championships. She's an athlete. She's succumbed to all kinds of problems that she's had. She has a learning disability, which she has overcome. You can look at her grades and see that. And she's gotten a scholarship, a really good scholarship to Baker University. And she's graduated early, but yet they're not going to let her walk. We want to know why.
Okay, thank you for your thoughts.
Okay? I'm her grandfather, by the way.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, then our first item here would be the audit.
Yeah.
Is she here?
Yeah.
Okay.
April. April Swartz from Varney and Associates in Manhattan.
This place is old and I. I'm gonna have one of these for me and then I'll pass it around. You have to share. Sure, you'll all want your own copy to keep. But we can put up maybe. Yep. All right. Where should I stand? Where do you want me to stand?
You're fine right there.
Okay. April Swartz, I'm one of the owners at Varney and Associates, and it was our pleasure to work with Micah again this year on the audit. You have two documents in front of you. One is the required communications letter. And the letter is basically starts out and it talks about whose responsibility the financial statements are. And that is you as a governing body and administration. That's your responsibility to make sure they're correct. And our job as auditors is to make sure that they are fairly stated based on what we see when we do our audit work. There were no adjustments that needed to be made. So the majority of the information you see tonight will be the same as what was presented to you by Micah when she presented you the June 30, 21 information. If you turn to the last page of the letter, we are pointing out to all of our school districts this year the increased threat of cybersecurity incidents that are happening. So we are really impressing upon districts to make sure you are training your staff on cybersecurity. Our firm uses a product called KnowBe4. So I just did mine last night. You get an email about once a month and it basically teaches you how to identify a phishing attack, how to identify social engineering. Because right now, school districts and everyone in the country is open to fraud by infiltration through the district systems and different systems around. What they do is they hijack emails. So the email may look legit. We had one school district that lost $130,000 because they got an email from their insurance agent. It was the correct email address. Told them if they paid by ACH, they could get a 5% discount. They did. Mistake number one, they should have picked up the phone and called, but they paid by ACH and it was fraudulent. They lost the money. They did have cybersecurity insurance, but it's very important that your district is training your staff on a recurring basis on what to look for in those types of situations. Also, it's very important that your information is backed up adequately and that all of the computers that are accessing your network are adequately protected because there's a lot of sensitive information on those computers for all your students, all your staff. There's health information, there's financial information, there's social security numbers. And so it can be a big lawsuit for a district if they're not protecting it and someone gets through the system. As far as the financial statements themselves, as I said, there were no adjustments, material adjustments to the numbers. So if you'll turn to page 4, the district follows what's called the regulatory method of the state of Kansas, which means you report under the cash basis. So page 4 is the financial statement for the district for the year FY21. The funds that you use are all listed down the left-hand side of the report. We start with your beginning cash from last year, receipts and expenditures for the current year, and then come to your ending cash for each fund at the end of the year. And at the end of the year, the district had $5,966,083. The next several pages are the footnotes to the financials, which I will not go through in detail, but they are required and they do give you more information about the district and how the district reports and records its financial activity. If you turn to page 12, this is a summary of the district's debt. You have 2 general obligation bonds outstanding, a series 2008 and a series 2013. And then during this fiscal year, you also did a new lease purchase for $1 million. And then you can see the payout of that debt down below on the bottom of that page. Page 14, we also look to see that the district is in compliance with budget laws. So page 14 shows each of the district's budgeted funds, the amount that was charged to those funds, and whether or not it was over or under budget. And in all cases, the funds were all under budget. So there were no violations of any kind, no statutory violations for the district. And then starting on page 15 is where we go through each individual fund, which we will not go through all of them, but we'll look at the general fund. You can see prior year actual numbers. You can see current year actual numbers, current year budget numbers, and then the variances there. And then all of the funds, all the additional funds of the district are behind that. There's a page for each fund. And then finally, this year, the district was lucky enough to get to have a federal audit as well, because they expended more than $750,000 in federal dollars. So starting on page 43 is the single audit section. There are 2 auditors' opinions. One of them talks about, we have to look at the internal controls over government funding. That's on pages 43 and 44. And then pages 45 and 46 are compliance over the programs we tested. We are required to test 40% of your expenditures of federal monies. So if you look at page 47, you can see the total expenditures for the district of federal dollars was $1,337,000. And we tested the food service program this year. And so we tested those top 2 numbers at $533,000. And we had no findings in relation to the federal dollars spent under the child nutrition cluster. Any questions? Or would you like more detail? Was that enough? Your audit fee covers year round. So if you have any questions, concerns during the year, feel free to reach out. You as a board, you know, you're responsible for these financials. You're responsible for the district's expenditures. So I hope you're asking good questions and seeing actual invoices and things when you're approving payments. You know, all of this should be open to you. So you should be able to ask to see anything that supports the items that you're approving. I know some of your new board members. I don't know which ones are new, but there you go.
Guilty.
So if you have any questions at any time, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. It doesn't cost extra. Our fee covers a whole year of consultation. So don't think we're going to run a meter the minute you call us, because we don't.
Okay, any questions? All right.
It's almost time to do it again. So I'll be back before long.
Get
We'll have
wound
the
up
next one
here.
done. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, it was hard to get here. We went to Wyatt City. I mean, it was crazy, but yeah, we made it. 1 minute to spare.
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. President, I move we approve the audit as presented by Barney and Associates for the fiscal year 2020-2021.
Moved and seconded that we approve the audit as presented by Barney's for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. Discussion on that item. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? So passed. Moving on then, spotlight on education. I think we have a Title I presentation.
Hey, Jim, we minimize that sidebar on that computer. It's the Zoom control, so it goes out of the way.
Sure.
Do that. The top left, see the minimum, yeah. Top left. Yeah, you probably do it on the computer because the touch screen is not hooked in. Other way. Perfect, thank you.
All right, well, I'm Crystal Wilson and this is Angela Harris, and we are the Title I teachers here in USD 417. And Angela is also our MTSS coordinator for the district. And so we just wanted to say thanks for letting us come tonight and share with you some things that we have going on in Title I. We've had a few changes, and then we wanted to share some reading data updates with you. And we also wanted to say thank you. This year we've been allowed to purchase some new resources. So thank you to the Board of Education and Dr. Doty and Kelly Gentry for helping us do that. So some changes in Title I this year. Previously, Title I had 2 teachers and they were both stationed at Council Grove Elementary School. And with the start of the 2021-22 school year, that was changed a little bit. Prairie Heights and the Council Grove Junior Senior High School expressed a need for having someone on site in those buildings. And so those positions were adjusted a little bit. So 1.5 FTE is at Council Grove Elementary, and the other 0.5 is shared between Council Grove Junior Senior High School and Prairie Heights. And so Angela goes to those buildings and she supports benchmark testing, data analysis. She helps create the intervention groups and implements intervention services. She also works with the administrators and they plan the PLCs and the BLT meetings as well. And each building has had a few changes this year. At the secondary level, we've had a lot of new things going on there. We've started screening all students in grades 7 through 12. Prior, we were only screening through grade 10. So this was a change for this school year. We also implemented the use of the Fast Bridge program. Prior to that, we had been using Ames Web Plus, and this was the first year for the junior senior high school to use Fast Bridge, and they do that in both reading and math. And having Angela there on site has helped a little bit with the BLT and the collaborative team meetings. It's helped restructure them a little bit so that the conversations can be more data focused and more productive conversations at the junior senior high school. And then we were also able to purchase some additional resource materials for our intervention groups. Since we had 7 through 12 going for reading groups, we needed some additional decoding interventions, and we were able to purchase the HD Word phonics intervention. At the elementary school, we still use Ames Web Plus. Next year, we'll be switching to Fast Bridge, just like the junior senior high school is, but this year we have Ames Web Plus. And so in the fall, we test students, and then we test again in the winter, and then test again in the spring. Today was our first day of benchmark testing, so we've been testing all day. So that's exciting as we get new data coming in. Then once we do that testing, we sit down and we look at all what the numbers mean and what the data means. And when we came together in the fall, we determined that our 4th through 6th graders were on target. They were where we wanted them to be to make the expected growth. But when we looked at our 2nd and 3rd grade groups, we realized that we had a large number of students who weren't on target. And so we had to make some decisions of what we could do with those 2nd and 3rd graders to help boost them and to give them some more support. So as a team, we decided to supplement the core. And so Kelly Gentry helped us to purchase a phonics program. It's called HD Word, or the official name is called High Definition Phonics. It's an explicit, systematic, cumulative phonics resource, and we implemented that in the core instruction in the classroom. And in addition to that, our students who met the requirements for intervention groups then received another intervention on top of that. We felt all these things were necessary to help move the needle a little bit. And while those students aren't all the way where we want them to be, they have made phenomenal growth this year. Angela's going to share a little bit with you about the growth that we've seen in those students in the 2nd and 3rd grades and the movements that we've had.
So starting after fall benchmark with the 2nd graders, this is how our data fell. And so where you see above that black line, those grade district-wide were 2nd graders that were ready for grade level instruction in oral reading fluency. At that time, district-wide, we had 51 students in 2nd grade. Okay, and so those that were ready, 57% of them were ready for 2nd grade level oral reading fluency instruction. At the first, then if they're not there, we test backwards to find where their instructional level is. And so if they don't meet the certain criteria at 2nd grade, we test back to 1st grade, and you'll see that district-wide, we had 4 students, or 8% of our 2nd graders that were ready for 1st grade level instruction. If they don't meet that criteria, then we test back even further, and they will be progress monitored on nonsense word fluency. And that is non-words, but they follow the consonant vowel consonant pattern. And that is really in the first, even a kindergarten level skill. And that's after fall benchmark, we had 35% of our 2nd graders district-wide ready for that type of instruction. So every week, our general education teachers progress monitor or administer passages or probes depending on what level their instruction is. And we monitor the growth. So by December, we took a look to see if our kids were growing. We had some kids move in and some kids move out, but then we started moving kids. And so from nonsense word fluency, remember I said in fall, we had 35% of our second graders district-wide. By December 1st, that was 14%. And our first grade, those that were on first grade level instruction were 17%. And then, sorry, that was a realignment of my little people. There's no moving there. But by December 1, 67% of our second graders were ready for second grade oral reading fluency instruction, up 10% from the fall. And then as we were preparing for this, in April, we did the same type of look. We had some kids move in and some move out. But you'll see that none of our students were being progress monitored on nonsense word fluency. And some of those first students that were on first grade oral reading fluency moved up, so that on April 18th, 83% of our second graders were ready for that second grade level instruction. With that said, when we analyze our benchmark data, there will still be students that are receiving second grade level instruction that are well below where we want them to be and not quite at benchmark, but you can see the growth they've made through the tiers or the layers there. A similar story for third grade. Third grade is one of our larger grades district-wide, and in the fall, we had 67 total third graders. 60% of them were ready for third grade level oral reading fluency instruction. 24% were at that second grade level, 9% were at first, and then you'll see even 7% were at that end of kindergarten, beginning of first grade level. By December, when we looked at our progress monitoring data, it was fun to see that our kids were moving. So that by December, 69% of our kids were third grade level instruction. And then there's my little realignment. And then in April 18th, we had a lot of kids move out between December and April, but our levels of growth continue to move. We're not exactly where we would want to be, but as you can see, there is movement that supplement to the core, the special education services, their intensive intervention, the intensive intervention they receive in the title room, all of these pieces coming together to help move our kids. So she said today was the first day of benchmark testing, and we're kind of data people, so we get excited to see more information coming in.
So our next steps, where we go from here, this summer in June, we'll have a team together and we'll be rewriting the protocols for reading and math. We'll have a team of teachers, title teachers, the administrators, and SPED, and we'll just work on rewriting our protocols. The elementary school is going to implement FastBridge next year. So Ames Plus will be replaced with FastBridge. And so we'll give the FastBridge screener 3 times during the year. We'll do it fall, winter, and spring, just like we've done with Ames Web. There will be some learning and training involved. So we'll start with some trainings in May. We'll train teachers again in August, and then again prior to benchmark, and then have continued support throughout the year as we learn a new system. The junior senior high school will continue with FastBridge. This was their first year with FastBridge, so just like with any new system, there's some kinks, and they've worked out a lot of things throughout the year, but next year they'll continue to implement it and refine those things. So looking forward to a good year with FastBridge next year. And then kind of one of our overall title goals is we'd like to create and implement some more systematic interventions for math. We talked a little bit about reading. We have a lot of protocols and interventions in place for reading. We would like to get some more in place for math. So that's kind of a long-term goal for us.
Awesome. Does that have any questions?
Was part of this delay COVID related? Do you know?
We don't have the ability to directly link it to COVID, but there are some patterns, state and nationwide, that might suggest that these grade levels were affected by the school closures in spring of 2020.
I think you'd see nationwide that to be true. I don't know if it's so much true or locally, because our data was much better as far as the gap. They're talking about the knowledge gap from COVID. It was there, obviously, but I think you would see that's a pretty consistent pattern for where kids come in to where they end up and how they move. And I think the numbers are even better. Kudos to these two ladies, because they've kind of taken our MTSS process to the next level and really reaching out, and we're revamping at the high school level. That's just hard, because when MTSS first came out, it was elementary based. There wasn't a high school MTSS plan. But as we see needs, as kids move in and as they progress through grade levels, there's a need there for that. And then the revamping of the core, because the MTSS should align with the core. Should always look at what's our core doing first, what's our core instruction in the classroom doing first, and that needs to be strengthened. We just can't rely on interventions to fix it. We need to fix it in our core and then supplement the interventions. And so a lot has come together over the years, and then these two kind of, which is a lot of workers with Kelly Gentry and Taz and the administrative team, and then these two ladies have kind of take it to the next level and ran with it. So a lot of good things going on. Kudos to them. Thank you for your work.
Other questions? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, next on the agenda are some reports. Dana, anything to add?
Nothing to add, but did you guys receive my email report? Okay,
Yes. Gentry?
No. My report. I'm sorry. No. There, I sent both those CUSA reports. If you wanted to read anything about them, we felt very fortunate. The team did a great job, and the results were very positive. So thank you to them. It's awesome.
Yeah.
The only thing I would have added was our championship engineering team or bridge building team. I don't know if they're out there, but I thought maybe they might be here. I know Kala Unruh was maybe going to be able to make it along with their sponsor Tracy Schroeder, but Nash Cooper and El Dragoni seniors all we were going to actually introduce them if they could have been here. But very proud of their accomplishments. Used a 3D printer and matched wits with lots of talented people throughout the state. So we're pretty proud of that.
Just add that the softball team on Saturday wrapped up the regular season softball title. So proud of them. And then we will host regionals on Monday, the 16th and the 17th. And even though we have games tonight and everybody else in the regional has games tonight, we have already wrapped up the #1 seed for that softball. Yeah. Baseball will play at Halstead.
Okay. Miles, you have anything?
The team did good. Everyone's starting to get a little anxious because it's the end of school. But yeah.
Bryce?
Just real quick, there's a couple updates on, I sent out a legislative update to kind of wrap up where we ended up, but there's still some confusion about what came out of conference committees on language clarification, but we'll get that hopefully soon. But one of the new legislative bills that passed was House Bill 2512, and within that is a new needs assessment requirement by statute. We've always done since 2003, there's always been a statute in place about a needs assessment, but we've usually taken care of that requirement through our KISA report, and the needs assessment we do through that for staff. We start building goals and we progress, and we monitor that through the needs assessment. But that it's not enough. And so what came out, according to the legislature, what they came out with is a new matrix. I won't give this to you yet. I mean, you can pass it around, but this is what was shared by KSDE as a template. But basically what the hard part is that it asks for, now it's tied to budget. Before needs assessment wasn't tied to budget. So now when we do our budget in July, we're going to have to tie our budget to our needs assessment, and it's got to be by building, which we do that anyhow. So this isn't going to be anything new. It's just how we show we're doing it, reporting to the state. One of the issues that is new, though, that we have to report, and if anybody has a crystal ball, I welcome to get it out, because you have to there's 3 questions in the end on the last page. It's hard to read, but it says we need to identify the barriers that we have to remove so kids can be at grade level proficiency. And you saw some of that tonight, that how we're removing those barriers through our MTSS program. The hard part will be we have to identify the actions that we're going to take and identify the timeline for when all students will be at grade level. So I don't know how we'll do that, but we'll try to make a prediction based on that data we see and how they move, how all kids could be at grade level, what that timeline will be. So it could be a difficult needs assessment to do, but we're so late in the year, we'll try to comply with this the best we can and get all the data into it, but we'll have a more formal process in place for next year as the time allows, so we can gain input from like site councils and those types of committees as well as part of the process. So just a little FYI on that. And then Bryce, did you need anything with graduation and promotion assignments that you did there?
Sign up if you want to.
Yeah.
Could still use a couple more people.
Yeah.
Skipped over a couple. Kelsey, you have anything to add online? Nope. Heather,
No, thanks.
Valerie? Okay. Board members, anything to report? All right. Moving on then, our first item is an executive session for student info and personnel. 15 minutes-ish.
Yeah, and invite, just need to make sure to invite everybody by name. So we have the agenda.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move we go into an executive session to discuss confidential student information pursuant to the exemption relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma with Dr. Doty, the board, Attorney Luke Scoba, Jason Ziegler, Ricky Ziegler, Joey Ziegler, Kelly McDiffit, and Jay Dornbos for 15 minutes. Second.
Moved and seconded that we go into a 15-minute executive session for student info and personnel with the board, Dr. Doty. Sure, I got all the right names here. Attorney Luke Scoba, Jason Ziegler, Ricky Ziegler, Jolie Ziegler, Kelly McDiffit, and Jay Dornbos. Any discussion on that item?
Might give us a minute to get all the technology arranged so we can stop the stream.
Okay.
Can grandparents be in here too?
No, sir.
Yeah, okay.
All right, any discussion on that item? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? All right, so yeah, we'll start that as soon as we get the technology straightened out.
Yes.